Somebody's grooving there to some beats. I like that. We should have a soundtrack for this class. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should think about if you had to pick some beats or a tune or a song or a rap or a classical piece or whatever, what would be the soundtrack to this class? Anybody have any ideas? Throw them in the chat. And then the next class, I'll start up some music. Got bionic ears in here. While we wait for a quorum. There we go. We'll give everybody a couple more minutes to gather. All right, let's see how many we got here. We got 19. Where is everybody else? We'll give them one more minute and we shall commence. All right, here we go. How's everybody doing? Please, please, please do us all a favor and come on off into your video world so we can see your lovely faces. Mindful, for some of you, you've been up drinking since dinner and it's very late. Kidding. Don't do that. Clara, how you feeling? You all right? Girl, you look good. I remember when this happened to me. I know. Clara has had her wisdom teeth removed, and many of us actually. If I remember when I had that happen, I was a young man, very much your guys' age, in San Francisco, and I went to. I had put up with the clicking in my jaw for long enough, and I went and they got X-rayed. They said, "Okay, we got good news and bad news. Good news is it's just your wisdom teeth. The bad news is they all got to come out, and they boom 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 boom. They broke, and they're all impacted. So I remember being literally like that. So you look great. I'm sure you don't feel great yet, but we won't ask you to talk. But we're glad that you showed up. Thank you. Look at that beautiful late afternoon Pyrenees sun coming in through the skylight. Wow. Whew. Fantastic. All right. So to some of my sisters and brothers that are in the Far East right now, I apologize once again for getting me up to stay up at this late, but it has not diminished your capacity and your eagerness to participate so much. But what I will do is suggest this. Now, we're at the halfway moment, right? This is the 7th week of 14. You guys did some amazing work on your early first phase of your semester-long project for your business. With regard to the aligner and some of your early research, we're going to go deep into deep listening. We're going to brief you on that today. And we're also going to do a little bit of the homework stuff. And we're also going to dive back into chapter 5. We're going to touch into chapter 5, a little quick, short overview of what I think some of the actionable insights that we can glean from Pahalad. And then we're going to dive back into some listening cases. And we're going to talk about some stuff that I think will be eminently helpful for you guys to understand the opportunity, the imperative, and the massive challenge of creating competitive advantage for you and your businesses that you end up getting jobs with and for when you get your degree and get out of this program. The homework that I just threw up for today, it's only your second written homework, mindful of the very busy work that I know that we were all doing on our projects. It couldn't be more timely. And I saw it on Twitter today, and it's from FT. You guys know what FT is? FT is the Financial Times. All right. One of the things that you should get in the habit of doing is reading a lot every day of timely information with regard to the economy, with regard to the culture, with regard to trade, business, and advertising, and everything in between. I mean it. I mean, I'm a big fan of you guys also reading stuff like literature, like philosophy, like poetry, like stuff like that, history. Oh boy, I'm a huge fan of that because it enriches your mind, it expands your heart and your understanding about human need. And I don't think you can be successful in business or marketing or branding or any of it unless you understand people. And this piece and FT is probably one of the Financial Times of London is probably one of the most important daily publications with regard to understanding the world, not just of finance and business, but of culture and everything in between. Its focus has always been on finance and industry but they did a great, well, I should say great. They did an interesting, at least mildly informative, short article today about the CEO of Danone, who was pushed out. And Clara, you may have seen this in the local press in France, but their shareholders pushed them out. And you can look at the article. Yes, I posted it on Twitter, but I also posted it inside classes, as we will always do. And I've given you an assignment, and I've given you 2 weeks. But I would do it now while it's fresh, because it's ripped right out of the headlines. But to me, it's such an important exploration. And at least it's a provocative entry point into an extraordinarily important debate that frames purpose in the context of profits. Okay. And long story short, with regard to what you're going to read in that FT article, if you haven't already read it, is that the CEO of Danone came in, I guess, 4, 5, 6 years ago. He'd been with Danone a long time, and came in and said, "Look, we're in this for the people. We're in this for the workers. We're in this for the families. We're in this for people, and we're going to prove it by the way we behave." And whether that is around ESG. Anybody here ever hear of ESG? It's a hot trending acronym in the world of the corporate enterprise planning. What does ESG stand for? Extra credit. Z, you should just Baidu that shit right now and tell. ESG stands for environmental, sustainable, and governance. I think something like that. And it's about an increasing trend inside of companies, mostly public companies.
Professor?
Yes.
I think S goes social, right?
Environmental, social, and governance. Maybe, yes, you're right. Yeah. I guess you're right. Thank you, Karina.
I don't know.
Credit.
I'm just guessing.
No, I think you're right. I think it's environment, because environmental is covered by sustainable. You're right. Meaning social justice, meaning social need, meaning people rather than just, business. So thank you very much for correcting me. I misremembered that completely. And when it comes down to the way that that public companies behave and their success is measured, more and more and more shareholders, aka the markets, are using ESG scorecards, okay, to rate and companies based upon their scores, literally, on those 3 measurements of environment, social, and governance. And there's a bunch of different criteria by which each one of those 3 things are rated, but the idea is that shareholders, in their heart of hearts, they don't give a damn about anything but dividends, profits. Now, you may say that's a very cynical take, and you may say, well, that's not true. Some shareholders care, and some shareholders probably do care. But as a body, the reason that people buy stock in a public company is because they want to be able to increase its value. And that's measured either by when they resell it, they capture a capital gains because the stock has gone up since when they bought it, or that company issues dividends. What are dividends? Dividends are like little extra premiums that you get each quarter, depending on the company's success. And companies don't have to issue dividends, but if a company is successful against its measures and its stock price increases, its profitability increases, its bottom line profitability and marginal profitability increases, whatever happens to cause their stock to increase, some companies choose to pay that back out on a quarterly basis to their shareholders. Okay? Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for owning our stock. We all made a little bit of money this quarter, right? And that's called dividends. Shareholders are interesting people. Right now, there's a great supposed conflict between the institutional investors, pension funds, large, private equity firms, large portfolio owners, hedge funds, who traditionally probably own 60, 70% of all of the shares that are traded on the major exchange, whether those are the Nikkei, whether that's the Dow Jones, whether that's the DAX, whether that is what's in the main financial exchange in China?
Shanghai Stock Exchange and Shenzhen.
Shenzhen, yeah, Shanghai. Okay, so those are all places. Those are markets where people buy and sell public company stock. Right. This is the way the world works in business. And so what happens with a company like Danone? They let a guy sneak through the gates, climbs up the corporate ladder, ends up becoming CEO and chairman of the board, and starts to say, look, we're going to do things a different way now that are as much about successfully benefiting the people in our world, our customers, our shareholders, our workers, our partners, our retailers, our communities where we operate, as much as shareholders. And shareholders will tolerate that kind of happy talk until when? Well, if you read that article, you'll see a graph that shows in the last 12 months, Danone up against their key competitors, Unilever and Nestle's, is losing market share, losing sales, revenue, right? Stock price going down. Shareholders say, well, wait a minute. Your job as a CEO, as the chairman, is to help us to compete, is to help us grow. And we're not growing, we're declining. Declining in market share, declining in revenue, declining in stock price. So what they did was, you'll see, and I'll ruin the surprise for you when you read this article, they pushed him out. They fired him. They fired the CEO and chairman. They replaced him with a committee led by the chairman, who's going to go out and find another CEO. I guarantee you, whoever they find is not going to get wrong the priority for Danone, at least for Danone's shareholders, which is profits first, purpose second, if ever. Okay, this is a lesson to all other CEOs who want to dabble in that crazy stuff called purpose. There's a great debate to be made about whether purpose is even possible in a world of public companies because of this. Okay, there's a great debate that continues on about who makes money in the markets. Anybody hear of GameStop? Anybody hear of Robinhood? What's this story right now? Tom, you're nodding your head. What's going on with that story in the last couple of months?
Well, there was a short squeeze being created by the public in general, starting from Wall Street Bets, the Reddit page, and the Robinhood part of the story is, as it was all going on and as it was just building more and more people were buying into GameStop, Robinhood restricted buying. They allowed you to close out your position, but nobody was able to buy, causing the price to go down, well, forcing the price to go down, basically.
Right. And why is the price going down good in this regard, Tom?
All of the large hedge funds who had major shorts on the position were in big trouble if the price kept climbing as it was.
You see how this stuff works, people? It's very complex. But ultimately, shareholders are supposed to care about growth, supposed to care about dividends, supposed to care about, and in fact, all they care about is betting right, at least at the institutional level. And when they say betting right, when Tom talks about a short position means that you bet that the price of that stock is going to go down to a certain point, at which point, when it reaches that point, you have an option to buy it. Mindful that that stock will come back depending on what you do next with that stock. And enough institutions short something, then it's predestined that that stock will go down because everyone looks at everybody else. If you ever read, it's just fascinating. You know, and I think this is an important discussion because you guys have to understand a context for competitive strategy from a marketing standpoint, from a brand standpoint, from an enterprise standpoint, from a human standpoint, but mostly right now from a business standpoint. And the business of the world is making money. And the business of capital is solidified inside of these markets and held and monetized by these extraordinarily large investment funds, these players. Okay. So as Tom describes, GameStop, you know, it started to crater. They started to bet it's going to go down further. It's going to go down. And as soon as everybody, in fact, if you've been reading throughout, and this is true always, but if you read the financial page every day, especially during the pandemic, always check the financial page every day. I mean this. Look at what's up, what's down, what's down. Read the first page of the Wall Street Journal. First page, they have the right-hand side digest or whatever. Read FT's cover, whatever. There's a digest. You can go Forbes, Bloomberg. I'm sure there's the South China. What's it? The South China Daily News. What's it called? What's the big publication that you guys? What do you read in China right now? What's your daily go-to? Yi, what do you like?
South China Daily.
Yeah, I think that's the most popular, right? I'm sure they have a really strong, powerful business summary. Read that every day, and you'll be amazed at how everybody wakes up on a Tuesday or like Wednesday, like today, and gets nervous at the same time because the Fed is rethinking its monetary policy, and it might start tightening instead of loosening. And then for the next 7 or 8, 9, 10 hours, everybody bets what everybody's going to do about that. And all of a sudden the market starts moving one direction. Thursday's going to come tomorrow. And I bet something like, I don't know, AstraZeneca is going to publish some findings to find out that their vaccine is not that bad. And all of a sudden everyone's going to feel good again. And for the next 7 or 8 hours, chase each other towards value or towards upsell or whatever. Anyway, it's going to feel like to you like this hysterical, literally, mob. And it kind of sort of is. But it only moves in any direction, big or small, because of most of the institutional players. What happened with GameStop, what happened with Robinhood said, we're retail, and we're for retail investors, basically day traders, people who didn't want to pay large fees to regular banks, investment banks or trading desks, like E-Trade. They weren't going to take 5%, 6% of each of your trade. But what they do is they make money selling your data. And so they have gamified day trading. And they have essentially created this aura of democratization of the market, even though, day traders, they come and they go, but they don't move markets until, as Tom points out, some idiot who I shouldn't call an idiot because he's the kid, like the kid who looked at the emperor and said, look, he's got no clothes. And everyone said, yeah, shut up. Someone on Reddit said, you know what, screw these guys. Let's start bombing with GameStop. Everybody go out and buy GameStop. And together, they got together and they all started saying, let's go buy GameStop to stick a finger in the eye of the big guy. Well, they were kidding themselves in large, even though the institutional investors got spooked and got scared. What did they do? As Tom pointed out, they called up the guy. Most of these people are white guys. They called up the white guy who runs GameStop and said, yo, turn that shit off. And as Tom just told us, they did. I watched them on Twitter, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago. Look, we're really sorry. We're just going to pause for a little bit. And they essentially froze all those people's accounts because the big institutional firm said, you can't let these guys ruin our bets. You can't let these guys ruin our life. This is not how our business works. We support you, Robinhood. We're your biggest customer. Don't mess with us. So there's a lot going on here. All said, though, and that is important just for you guys to get a sense of how ultimately powerful, cynical, hysterical markets are. And when you look at those in a microcosm, when you zoom in from the market into a one business, one of those businesses that you guys are going to work for, this happened 2 days ago in China, right? What happened in China 2 days ago when it comes to business and getting a little too big? Yo, Alibaba, right? You guys reading this? What happened with Alibaba this week? I should have 5 people trying to talk all at the same time right now. But again, you're worried about your business, I mean, about your studies, you got your project, you got your homework, you got your, you lockdown, you got, pay attention to this stuff, people, because you're going to be going and trying to get jobs real soon in this world. And the more you know about how this world works, Jeff, you're coming off mute. You know what happened with Alibaba. What happened?
Not quite sure.
They got told to just get back in their lane. They said, you guys are too big. Guess what? The jig is up. We're going to start investigating how to break you up. Now, there's 2 really big companies in China right now that matter in the world of technology and business and social and media and advertising. Those are Alibaba and
Huawei.
Huawei. Without a doubt. Huawei, for a whole other reason, in another category, yes. Huawei is, again, Huawei, oh my God. And they make some of the most incredibly, powerful equipment on the planet. But I was thinking, Xuan, I was thinking of a competitor to Alibaba, which is Tencent.
Yeah.
Okay. These 2 titans are now being challenged by who's coming up real quickly, too quickly.
Is that TikTok?
Yes. Douyin, ByteDance, right? All of a sudden, ByteDance is owning it out of nowhere, becoming one of the biggest platforms in the world. Now, they don't have Weibo yet, and they don't have, Alipay, they don't have, WeChat yet. Boy, are they scaring these big companies. And meanwhile, the government then says to Alibaba, we're going to start picking on you first because you're bigger, but we got to start challenging this ability to consolidate power. All of these different stories are about the same thing. Can you name that one word? Capital. Remember, I told you at the very beginning of the course, read your Marx. Right? Why? What was Marx's central insight? He had a lot of them. I would argue that one of his most important ones had to do with value, how it's created, where, by whom, and who benefits. Okay? These were his central insights. And from that flowed all his sense of class struggle, all his sense of tools of production, all of his sense of everything else. But his essential insight, and he was a sociologist, by the way. He wasn't even an economist, never mind a philosopher. But his insight about the way the world was beginning to work and had been working for about 7 or 8, well, maybe 120, 150, 250 years since mercantilism started to kind of sunset in the West, his insight was very strong. And to this day, it's worth going back to understand it, because capital. Okay. Now, this is not a political speech. This is not even an economic speech. This is a career speech for you. Because what happened to the Danone's CEO this week is important. Because you're going to be getting jobs for these companies, and you're going to be maybe one day one of those people that wants to work their way up to being one of those CEOs, and you may be part of a generation in Western Europe, in the Americas, in China, in India, in Asia, wherever. You may be one of a new generation that says, you know what? This world's over in 50, 60, 70, 80 years in any meaningful, livable way, unless we start fixing some very fundamental things. One of the things that the virus taught us was that systems that are generated and designed specifically around growth do two things. Sometimes they cause problems, and two, they're very often incapable of fixing them. The pandemic showed us that. And the response of businesses and governments and communities and parties and everybody to the pandemic has shown that, man, capital can't help itself. We keep trying to open up restaurants because we don't want restaurants to go out of business, and people just get together and people get sick, then they close the restaurant. Now, eventually, we're going to have enough vaccines around the world, at least for this problem, to start to slowly abate. But capital is inexorable when it does not allow itself to be leavened or tempered or influenced by something other than an imperative towards growth. That's your homework. Think about that. Do a little research about that. And ask yourself, is it even possible? You'll see in the homework, basically the core question I'm asking you to explore. And by the way, there is not a right answer to this, but this is an important and insightful exploration for you to critique. Is it fucking possible for a public company to not answer first and foremost to growth and profits, but look at ESG, look at purpose as a true barometer for value? Because as long as we keep saying, I buy a stock in a public company so it will go up, then we keep saying, and we keep a logic in place which says that it only goes up as a proxy for, as an outcome for growth. This problem never goes away. This problem only gets worse. We only have badder, tougher, more selfish, more voracious companies trying to kill each other in a zero-sum game. Or we have a future. And by the way, if you look at the oil industry, the energy industry, if you look at the technology industry with blockchain, if you look at the manufacturing industry with the way it mines, chromium and all of these different industries that are driven by growth are literally burning the house down. Macron, Biden, Johnson, Merkel. I could name almost all of the world leaders in the last month or two have had meetings and had speeches where they said, if we do not get to zero carbon net growth in the next 7 or 8, 9, 10 years, the world is over. Literally. There's a lot of people who studied environmental damage that comes from warming and it comes from its effects and its acceleration, and do models and look out and say that most of the places we think are habitable right now, from a climate standpoint, from a moisture standpoint, from an oxygen standpoint, from a land standpoint, will be uninhabitable 70 years from now. So capitalism must change. It's as simple as that. It's as crazy as that. One of my favorite modern contemporary philosophers, social critics, writers is a guy named Slavoj Žižek, Zizek, and he wrote famously that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. And the irony of that pithy little saying is that they could end up being the same damn thing 70 years from now. So I say this to you because you are the generation of business owners, of workers, of managers, of people, of leaders, of consumers, of moms and dads and sisters and brothers who are going to go out and either fix this or not. So I think this little article today from FT about some white guy in France who just got fired as CEO of a relatively large, dairy company because he thought that purpose mattered more than profits, or he thought he could make purpose matter enough that profits would come. And in the 4 or 5, 6 years he was trying that, the investors and the market analysts said, nah, it's not working. Next. I think that gives us a clue into an important question. Can we save the planet, save our businesses, and make our shareholders money, by the way, with some sort of profitable enterprises that are not obsessed with growth? Because I think growth eventually is the thing that kills us all. And capital can't imagine, or at least capitalism as we know it now, corporate capitalism, can't imagine business without growth. I'm telling you right now, I'm a marketing shill. I've been a marketing shill for 35 years. I do the same thing 4 times a year. I get a brief from a client. It says, I'm on the hook to sell 15% more than I did last year. I'm on the hook to increase market share in Western Europe by 12 points against last year. I'm on the hook to increase, marginal profitability or revenue sales in North America by 3% month over month. That's why I said to you in the beginning of this semester, almost every brief is a business brief, right? What I meant by that is almost everybody invests in marketing for only one reason: to drive business results, to get and keep customers. Okay, great. But every board of directors and every CEO turns to the CMO every quarter and says, I need you to grow. I need you to grow market share. I need you to grow sales. I need you to grow revenue. I need you to grow bottom line or top line profitability. Okay, let's do it. They call their agency, they talk to their team, grow. And that's how they get benefits. That's how they get raises. That's how they get promoted. That's how they get their next new job. That's how they get literally incentivized, bonuses. And so the whole structure is rewarded for growth. Growth will burn the planet down, I think. So that's your homework. Explore that. Think about that. And don't think about it academically, even though this is the academy. Think about it very practically. Think about it in terms of your career. That's what I said earlier. Because it's on you. No pressure. Right? Remember that day? It was what? Oh man, it was early spring 2021, I think. I had this professor that said, you guys got to go save the world. What an idiot I thought he was. I think 2 or 3 or 4 years from now, she's going to be saying that to like one of her, at a board meeting where she is the chairman. Don't disappoint me, G. I have a lot of hope for you. Okay, so kill it, girl. And she's saying, look, guess what? Guess how much growth I need this quarter? Everyone's going to roll their eyes. How much, G? Chairman G? You like the sound of that? Yeah. She's going to say, none. All I want is happier customers. Happier? Customer happiness? Not more customers? The same amount, but happier? That's a different brief. Is it possible? I'll give you a little tip. If I were you and I was going to do this homework, I'd read that article. I'd do some research about purpose versus profits. And I have a little think about you as a consumer of pick a product. Anybody love the fragrance that they use? I like mine. I got, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, probably, I'm a very needy guy, and I'm a very superficial idiot. Okay. So I'm sure it was a woman said to me, What are you wearing? It's nice, but have you ever worn Hermes? No. What do you think I did the next day? I walked in the front of the first floor of Macy's, back when you could walk into the first floor of Macy's. I guess you can do that now again. And I went to the counter and I bought a bottle of Hermes. I said, are you serious? 160, oh, okay, whatever. And I walked out and I've been wearing Hermes, very carefully, very sparingly because of its price for the last 7 or 8 years. Okay. Do I care if more people go out and buy Hermes? Maybe. I don't know. Nah. But I do care about telling stories like this and people going, who would have guessed Kennon wears Hermes? Interesting. Or I just care about the way it makes me feel. Or I just care about what people, when I meet someone new, they go, I wear that too. Yo, Tara? Yeah, Tara, man. That's the brief. If she's running Hermes or some other fragrance or some other luxury brand or whatever, that's a brief to, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years from now. Go get happier people. So happy they will never, ever, ever not buy what we sell. And maybe once in a while, tell other people to buy us too. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that is what purpose is. Now, Hermes doesn't even give a shit about the planet, as far as I know. But if you buy, anybody in this world ever buy a pair of Patagonia, trainers, or a Patagonia jacket, or a Patagonia sleeping bag, I don't know, or a top, or a vest? Anybody? It's expensive. But it's amazingly well made, and it comes with a story. It comes with a story that the people who make it, right from the CEO, founder, right down to everybody who's still doing it, give a shit. And they don't give a shit because, oh yeah, it'd be nice to keep the planet going for a little while longer. They give a shit because all their customers die if the planet dies with it. But there's a company, Patagonia, that is driven by a purpose around a better world. Anyway, that's my context. That's my little rousing speech of the big idea, the big picture. Your careers, the future of capital, in the context of purpose and profits, not or. And I think, I don't know the answer, as I said, but I think the key to your exploration could be, what if we take the imperative for growth out of the brief? I don't know. I'm being provocative. It's my job. What are your thoughts? Any questions? Any ideas? Any responses?
I just came this thought about, do you know a company called Zapper?
How do you spell it?
He's the first one who trying to make his employee happier.
Really? What's
Yeah.
the name of the company? What's the name machine?
Zapper, Zappos. It's not very famous company, but he's really I really respect him style.
Zappos. So we have a case coming up this semester on this. So I won't say too much except to say, oh boy, are you right? In fact, yes, this is one of my favorite cases in all of business. I think it's next week. So I'll hold that thought, but you can all know that G got there first. How did you learn about it? Did you study it in another class, or you just stumbled upon it?
No, I just read this article, and I don't even know what Zappo is before, but after I listen his story, I feel like he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, and you know who bought his company because of that? Jeff Bezos, the devil himself. Sorry, you do get, obviously, you know this, you get a fair amount of editorial with me, but I hope to give it this insightful context so you can make your own choices. But if you disagree with me, oh my God, what's up with that? Yeah, Jeff, well, and for the same reason that Microsoft bought GitHub, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, because I can't compete with this. I can't compete with this degree of happy customers. So you raise a great point in this context, Xi. Thank you. His name is Chris Shea, and I think he's a Chinese American. I think he's first generation. I think.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he died in a accident. It's really sad.
He died?
Yeah, he died in a fire accident in last year. I think it's November or December.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Wow. I'll have to update that case because I didn't realize this. This is yeah, he came up with an entire different business philosophy. He called it holacracy. Wow. All right. Well, that's sad. That is sad. But I think that I think that in fact, as your response to this case, the homework, you know, you might want to think about Xi or anybody else, you know, using that as a way into exploring this, because that's all, you know. Chris Shea said, look, I can make enough money, my employees can make enough money, we can be very, very happy company if we just focus on making our customers happy. So it's an amazing philosophy. Anyway, anybody else, thoughts, questions, ideas? All right. I made a quick ad because of this FT article. I updated the deck. So if you were in the midst of downloading today's deck that I put up there, I guess last night, and all of a sudden it wasn't there, 7B was up there afterwards, because it now includes just a little one slide to show you what we just talked about today's this week's homework for 2 weeks from tonight. Anyway, what we haven't done yet is do a deep dive specific around the next phase of our semester-long project for turning around your businesses. Okay, so obviously we're working on the same brand, all right? And what I want to do is go deep on that deep listening and pull out insights around a bunch of things, but mostly around the audience. Okay, so each one of us has to worry about 4 companies each, whether it's Under Armour and you want to understand the audience for them, whether it's H&M, whether it's Taco Bell or Macy's. I want each one of you guys and gals to use the listening extracts I gave you and the quant dashboards, or any other ones that you ask me for. I will do extracts, and we'll talk about this in a minute, over and over and over again in the coming 2 or 3 weeks if you want to get more deeper, different insights, because I will guarantee you are going to find stuff inside of those, and some of you already have, because I saw it in your phase 1 presentations. You've already started to mine insights from that, but now you're going to go deep. And most of the insights are not going to be inside of the quant dashboards, that decks, okay? And I'm going to pop one open for us all as we go through it. Actually, I'm going to go through this first, then I'll pop it open. I'm going backwards here. But I want you to deep dive into that. Each one of you, whether you want to take 5,000 rows each and scan it and find out, and then click through and then read and then go back and scan it and click through and then read and go get lost and then go, wow, oh, that's interesting. And then start cutting and pasting verbatims and typing in little interesting insights or key takeaways or observations. And you do that for 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 40 hours each. And you're going to go like this. Watch me. Watch me. Everybody watching? You're going to go like this. Let me at them. Let me at these people. I get them in here. I get them in here. Now I gotta write briefs. Now I gotta write strategies. Now I gotta write positioning statements. Now I gotta define and articulate those insights and around their need. And I gotta write a brief. I gotta come up with something that is to be done with these insights. That's the brief. Now, you've already taken a stab at a golden circle, and in some cases, some interesting strategies and insights that come from the analysis and the research you did for that. A couple of things are going to happen here from this insight, from this research, that will enrich, evolve, deepen, maybe replace your early insights. And you are going to listen strategically. You're going to mine those insights. You're going to articulate them, write them down, and build these tools that essentially are these containers for these insights. And those tools are going to be, first, you're going to go back to your golden circle. And some of you already started to make it more like a liner, which is a linkage into the actual audience insight. And we're going to show you a couple of examples of that. We started to last week. And then inside of the, and then you're going to develop these profilers. And the key output through this particular piece of the second phase of your 3-phase semester long project is leveraging insight that you get from whatever research, in this case, deep listening, in the service of building out these tools. And in this case, you're going to end up with really rich, refined brand aligners based upon your early work with your golden circle and consumer profilers. And inside these profilers, you're going to have some keys to understanding what matters to the consumer. And and you've already started to see those in some of these profilers, but I'm going to start pointing out inside each one of those tools where these kinds of insights around unmet need, competitive positioning, potential differentiated messaging, where they go inside these tools. And some of them will go inside, the little slides that come after these tools, saying, this is our strategy now. Now that we know this about our H&M audience, and now we know this about our brand, what matters and why, this is what we're going to start to do. And the last piece that I'll brief you on the other side of week 10 will be the, developing both the affinity model or the behavioral need state planner and a roadmap to activating this new refurbished and re-energized H&M or Taco Bell or Macy's or Under Armour. And that's the final presentation, which basically will include, as you've already started to recognize, bits and pieces from this evolving phases. And in this centerpiece phase, the second phase, of which you're all going to get up and present 30 minutes max on week 10, okay, 3 short weeks from tonight, it's going to be the output of the insights you glean from this deep listening. Now, that's a short period of time to enhance your golden circles and start to build them into something that aligns with the what, the how, and the who, the what, the how, and the why, with these new audience profilers that you're going to build. And these, I recommend strongly using the templates or the formats that I've suggested in all these different evolving sets of cases for these tools, the aligner, the brand aligner, and the consumer profilers. Okay, you're going to continue to see examples of those, but that presentation in 3 weeks, which is going to go quickly, is going to be reliant, I think, on some of the extraordinarily fresh and deep insight you're going to get about human need and desire from that listening. So what that means is, practical terms, is you're going to go to H&M, picking on you. Okay, this is the query I used. Can you excuse me 1 second? Hello? Hello? I think it's FedEx, but they're not talking. H&M, because COVID. Here's the query that I wrote for, who's on my H&M team? Who's the squad? Clara, who else is waving their hand? Yunjia, Tom, Hui Min, and Wan Shen. All right, cool. So H&M, here's the query. You may tell me that's good. We saw a lot. We did a lot. We did 10, 12 hours worth of analyzing that spreadsheet, and we found some stuff, but we didn't find a lot of deep stuff. But if you could do another query and look for stuff that includes not H&M, we don't care about that, but just give us a poll for anything that has to do with fast fashion or style and inexpensive, or you know, streetwear. So give me some other keywords and maybe some modifiers to it, and I'll write you queries and I'll pull you extracts. I won't do a full deck for you with the quant stuff, because this gives you a sense of volumes. This gives you a sense of the words that were included in that 457,000 plus 7.6 million comments or upvotes or whatever. That's a lot of volume. That's almost, what is that? That's 8 million worth of potential pieces of content. Out of all that content, whether it was in the first post or a comment or whatever, these are the words that appear, the single words that appear with the most frequency. Fashion, buy, industry, people, love, product. Yeah. These are the ones that occur with 2 words frequency, the highest frequency that are 2 words. These are the ones that have 3 words. I would say that there's a lot of non-American stuff in here. Okay. So what I did when I pulled your, because you can tell by here that this has, I don't know if that's Hindi. Does anyone recognize that script? Thai. Okay, it's Thai. So that's going to skew your results. So I think when I pulled your extract, I only pulled North America. I think I only pulled the United States because I wanted to give you stuff that you could read. You didn't have to worry about foreign language. And I don't have any problem at all with each one of our 4 groups focusing their brand or competitive plan reset around just North America. I don't mind that at all. So anyway, long way to go to say, this is what 4 words, this is what verb, noun words, this is what the fashion tags, and then this is what the influencers are. A lot of times these are just idiots on Twitter, or maybe just publishers or authors, but maybe I don't get that much insight from here. And then there's post by more social and rather than publishing. And then it gives me some directional sense of the who, but I don't trust this very much for any of these programs because there's so much non-specific or non-germane or off-topic, I should say, content in that 8 million posts, that when they try to guess using browsing history or search history or Weibo, or not Weibo, but WeChat profilers if they're public, or Twitter profilers if they're public, they try to guess gender, age, language is easy, but then they try to tell you what their top interests or occupations are. And this to me is always, as we say in strategy world, directional at best. But sometimes at least confirms that in the case of fast fashion or H&M, looking for H&M, that women outpull men considerably. Now, that may not mean that all your customers are mostly women, but it could be a directional insight. But I wouldn't put too much faith in this. This just tells you where all those different posts come from. And then this shows you what sort of advertising was happening around the people who were making those 8 million posts. And sometimes it's interesting. But this is where all of the gold for your insights are buried, which is the qualitative output. This represents the results where I press a button and lo and behold, I got this for H&M, okay? And I scan it. A lot of times for many categories, the most interesting stuff are going to be the stuff inside of Reddit. Sometimes fashion blogs in this category. I don't think that's very interesting. YouTube, pulling bear sale dreams, courier, header points. So a lot of this stuff is completely off topic, maybe. I'm doing a one palette, looks perfect. Stacy Love Trail, this is a stunning palette. That makes no sense. So I would argue that immediately the H&M team should say, yo, Kennon, thanks. We didn't find too much, but I need you to spend a couple hours analyzing it. Can you please do another poll and tell me what words to include in that query? Okay. In this case, let's see what this is about. That link doesn't exist. Just really got this cute top. I go here, 68 comments, view all comments. That's interesting, maybe. I just recently got this super cute tot from H&M, and I love how it looks and hugs my body. Small boob love. Interesting. Who would think to go to a subreddit called Small Boob Love with 68 comments and get insight? The language takes us here, right? The keywords took us here. This is a woman only sub. Wow, I love it. The shimmer and how it fits you. Thank you so much. So pretty. Where was that necklace from? Thank you. Oh, this is the sweetest compliment. That's really cute. I'm wearing it as extra small. This looks so cute. The chest area is not tight on me at all. I'm a 32A. Oh my gosh, I was looking at this exact top. I see I'm about the same size as you. I'm not entirely sure what measurements. Maybe there's nothing here. I recently got a lot of pairs of really nice jeans. I think we're similar clothes size. Damn, you look great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, there may be nothing here. But what I think is interesting is it's a discussion and dialogue amongst people. They don't know we're listening. They don't know we're here. They don't even let men here, right? The moderators will chase them away because it's not about sexualizing people and users. It's about comparing notes amongst people with small breasts that want to talk about what kind of fashion you like. What do you buy? How do I look? What would you say? What do you do? You know? And maybe there's something here. I don't know. But if there were something here, you could say, well, you know what? Culturally, traditionally, fashion magazines, they go back and forth about thin women, larger women, and cultures have, sometimes are in and out of fashion with smaller breasts or longer legs or longer eyelashes or higher cheekbones or whatever. And maybe there's an insight on a place like this in the context of what we sell, $20 tops that we might find. I don't know. But you do this over and over and over again, and you start writing down what you see, and you start capturing your verbatims. And you're going to see yet another case and 2 or 3 cases tonight and into next week around how this process works, what kind of verbatims I end up pulling and putting into these studies to then substantiate these insights that I write, that we write, and then the tools that I put those insights into. And that's the process I want to get you guys religion about and for this coming 3 weeks. How to take stuff like this, analyze it as though you were a research analyst, which you are, a culture data analyst, and coming up with insight. I can tell right now that this is not a target-rich query. So H&M, shoot me a note, CC all your teammates, say, please, can you do another extract or 2, including the following keywords? But you just got to do the research first. So I know that you're grounding it in some things that you perceive might be missing. Or you may say, also include anything you can around, women only. I don't know. But send me a note. Each one of our teams sends me a note and tells me, we would like, and CC everybody, another extract or 2, and please include the following keywords. Because you can see this one, we just literally used, give me everything that conversation in the last 13 months that includes H&M and any of these other words. But because I wanted you to get some insight into the brand. More often than not, I find that the real insight, as we talked about last week, is not amongst the branded conversations as much as they are amongst the thing itself. Taco Bell. "43 comments, view all comments. Looks as if Taco Bell has brought the SSX cups already. There's a code on the other side, a number you must text it to. Best of luck to everyone." They already have a contest going on. I've been a rewards member, haven't seen shit. I had to sign up through the rewards. Yeah, bro, they sent out an email with a website. I never got an email. Same here. I want an Xbox One X from Doritos giveaway. I'm very grateful. Very much a real person. Good bot. This guy, President Browser, is calling out the Phil Online as a bot. Okay. Is he? I don't know. He's got some decent karma. Maybe, maybe not. Thanks, but not a bot, he says. I definitely have a human friends, all of which play our national human Canadian sport of hockey on my mic. Whatever. Here's a conversation. So if you're at Taco Bell, is there any insight here hiding amongst that about CRM, insight around value, around couponing, around, passion for the product or passion for the rewards or passion for the offer or passion for whatever? Maybe, maybe not. If there is, you keep looking. But I guarantee you, after 7 or 8, 9, 10 hours of this analysis from each one of you, you're going to send me a request in the coming hours or days saying, please give us another extract and include words like these. Now, I've been doing this a long time. There's only 2 comments here. When I hit something like this, I almost never stick around because 2 comments is not a conversation. I almost never find insight in 2 comments. 10, 20, 30 comments, 100 comments, 63, 43. Sometimes you find insight. Again, these are focus groups. Think of these as focus groups that you're going to dive into. Okay. And you're going to then, with these insights in mind and hand, you're going to start writing your next presentation, which is going to be a deck that you can build from. In fact, I don't mind if you say, give me 2 slides from your first presentation. Here's where we started with our golden circle. We have evolved it into this brand aligner, and this is what we think now about our what, how, and how, what, and our what. Or what, how, and why. And here are 2 or 3 or 1 core audience profilers that we developed with our fresh listening insights. And here are some refined ideas that we are going to suggest in our final strategy, our go-to-market reset for H&M or Taco Bell or Macy's or Under Armour, when it comes to what sort of unmet needs are we going to be targeting? What's our competitive positioning versus, McDonald's? What's our differentiated messaging? You can take stabs at these kinds of strategies in the context of these 2 tools, the refined brand aligner, which was basically a refined golden circle, and now these really rich consumer profilers. Does this make sense? Questions? Thoughts?
Professor, I have 1 question.
Sure.
So the time will be the same as last time, right? We like almost 20 minutes, like no more than 20.
Yeah. And I know that's tight, but we got away with it. We did it. You guys were amazing. I've never had 4 groups present with such precision and tightness in that period of time. So yes, Karina, and the problem is there's more stuff in this one than there is in the previous one, because I want you to show me some of the evidence of your research. I want you to show me some of the verbatims that you came up with. I want you. This is a research project. This heart and soul of your competitive strategy plan. For what team are you on, Karina?
Under Armour.
Under Armour. You're when you get up as part of your core reset strategy for making competitive, making Under Armour, more competitively powerful in the world of their competitors and compellingly alluring in the world of their consumers because of your plan. At the heart of it, these insights you get from this process. So I want in this 20, 25 minutes, yes, show me some of the evidence that you gathered, some of the richness of the verbatims that come from this research, some of the insights that you gleaned, then maybe a refined or updated brand aligner based upon the new insights from the one that you presented last week. And importantly, the key output of this phase are these audience profilers. And yes, 20, 25 minutes is the goal.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you. Anybody else? All right. And remember, just to remind ourselves the process, we got Talk Walker here. I'll pull these spreadsheets until I'm blue in the face. You just tell me what you want me to get. You look at these keywords, you put them in a query, you pull the extract, you look at those quant dashboards, maybe they're interesting. Most of all the real stuff is inside those data sheets because they're, and even there, they just lead you to the real stuff. The fly in the wall subreddits or retail forums or YouTube comments or articles in fashion magazine with the comments turned on. And that's where you find all your stuff. And that's what goes into the research report. The product for this particular exercise for these 3 weeks, very accelerated weeks, is not necessarily a research report as it is some evidence of what you found and what you're going to suggest doing with it in the form of the insights. We already talked about this. This is the guy who got canned this week. I think we've given you a lot of context and jumpstart on that homework. And Prahalad. So you guys read chapter 5 of Prahalad. You know, we haven't, you know, dipped into Prahalad in a long time. It's week 7 already. And we've been focusing a whole lot on some of the cases to get you ready for your brand aligner and your audience profilers and competitive advantage tools. But I want to, you know, there's at least 4 chapters from Prahalad we're going to come back to and lecture on. And I want to, you know, to me, this short one is very, very interesting. And this one is really, really powerful, this little thing about Legos. And I'm going to play this video. I think you guys probably have done it, if not, because it's referred to inside the case. And then we're going to talk. I'm going to ask you to nod if you can hear this.
We just had the most amazing family vacation.
Can you hear this?
Yes.
Thank you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my laboratory where safety is number one priority. And today I'm going to show you Lego life hacks. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of Legos, especially when you have kids or something and they don't play with them anymore. So you can put them to some kind of use anyway. So I got Lego pieces right here, flat ones like that. And simple as that, I'm going to grab a knife and just they will fall like that with this kind of motion. And then flip it over and finish then when it fall on this side right here. And what I'm gonna have is perfect hole just like that. Same thing I did with the other pieces, and I did different colors for different pieces. Then I'm gonna put those Lego pieces inside of each key like that in the ring. Then I'm gonna get a bigger piece like that, any color you want, and get this double-sided tape it on one side right here. Then I'm gonna stick it somewhere on the wall, right next to the exit maybe, or wherever you're gonna put your keys all the time. Stick it just like that. Then I'm gonna put all my keys right on this board. And actually that looks cool on the keys as well, beside. And that way you'll never lose your keys again. Look at this, this is awesome. When you need to get out, you just boom and ready to go. When you need to put them back, whoop, and they back, and you never have to worry about losing your keys again. Awesome. Alright guys, for this life hack, I got this Lego person or Lego superhero, and I'm gonna grab one of those double-sided tape. And I'm gonna either tape it on the back of their heads or on their legs. I'm gonna do it on their legs. Then I'm gonna peel it off right here, and then I'm gonna stick it on the side of the table. So that way they can hold your charger. You can make them hold them whatever you want. You can even make them hold like one of those tools, like little tools, of course not too big. Another good idea, instead of saving this pile of Legos and mixed up and you don't see any colors that you need, get a shoe rack. Instead, get a shoe rack, the door shoe rack, and mix them up with the different colors. And that way, if you know which colors you need and with it, you can just pull them out. Instead of digging through all the different colors from the back. So that's the best way to mix them up in different colors. Once in a while, it's a good idea to wash all of your Legos. You know, they sit on the floor. So once a month, it's just a good idea to wash all the boom, and it's all clean. All my Lego, and put this magnet right on top of the leg. Ignition sequence start.
So I draw your attention to a couple of things. This is 6 years old. That's a long time. 7 million views. Okay. 11.5 million subscribers. Okay. 5,000 comments. What do you think all of those are signals for?
That people really enjoy to watch creative stuff and use their imagination to make it become alive, like involved.
Yes. I love. There's two words you use there that are so strong. One, the idea of people and imagination, and two is this sense of involved, and this product, Legos. We all know Legos, right? Most of us, you have Legos in China, right? I mean, I bet, and you had Legos, I know, in France, Clara, Tom, I know they got them in New York because I grew up with them too. We got them everywhere. Legos are almost a universally accessible brand and primarily designed for whom?
Kids.
Kids. It's got a product that literally has the persons for whom it's designed for, age, sometimes gender, which is a very old school provocation, on the fucking box, on the box itself, excuse me. Okay? And then we got this some crazy Russian hacker by his own naming with 11 million subscribers who makes 8-minute videos about what? About imagination and involvement, as according to Xi. And 5,000 comments, 7 million views. Now, I bring this case up as the beginning of this chapter on Prahalad when they talk about experience. Okay, because they named their book, you know, they put the word experience in their name of their book. And to me, their big idea is that we're not in the toy business. We're not in the jeans business. We're not in the fragrance business. We're not in the dairy business. We're not in any of those businesses. We're in the experience business. And what Prahalad and Ramaswamy suggest in this chapter is very interesting. They suggest that not just our products need to do this, but everything that happens around them. And that includes the communities of users, that includes fans, that includes retail environments, that includes the playroom, that includes the toy box, that includes our desk now, that includes the doorway that comes into our apartment where we keep our keys. If you pay attention to what people want, what they desire, what they experience together, when it comes to the imagination, when it comes to immersive involvement in your product's value. Because what happens is stuff like this, and this is what Prahalad promises, becomes our marketing. What do you think Lego did about 8, 9, 10 years ago, or maybe 8, 9 years, 10 years ago, when they first started seeing evidence of people on YouTube forming these communities around their products? Does anybody know historically what their first response was? You might be able to. Go ahead.
Saying they're not using it, the product right.
Yes. You're doing it wrong. That's what they said. They tried to make them stop. right? According to the old rules, nah, you can't do that. We go to a lot of trouble to manufacture these toys, these games, these whatever they are, to very specific specifications. We got instructions. We got a picture on the outside of every box. We've got exactly the right number, size, and color of every single piece in order for you to do what we think should be done with our product. And so when they saw people doing this, they were horrified. Now that should sound funny to us right now. That should sound ironically misinformed. That should, and because of the last 6, 7, 8 years of brands and people and humans and advertising and marketing and product experience has told us that, you know what? Some of the greatest things in the world happen when you take, what's the famous, what's the candy disc that they put inside Pepsi? Is it Necco's? There's this little candy that they started to push inside of Pepsi bottles and create these huge explosions on YouTube about 7, 8.
Mentos?
What is it?
Mentos.
Mentos. Mentos. Thank you, Tom. Our Chief Culture Data Officer over here, Tom, coming through with the right one. Yeah. And Pepsi and Mentos were both horrified there. Should they have been?
No.
No. And it's not because, oh, that's just great advertising. As long as they're talking about you, it's okay. Even if it's horrifying and some little kid lost a finger, that's why we got 10, right? That's not nice. It's the fact that people are so emotionally, imaginatively involved, to use these words, in our product's value that they can't help but adding to it. That's not how you use Lego. It is how we do. Huh, okay. Well, then what Legos did is what everybody should have done. And what Pepsi and Mentos did was what they should have done, was let people play, damn it. Let them rack up 7 million views. Let them rack up 5,000 comments. Let people play with our product because it is adding value everywhere. Up until now, almost all businesses were, as we talked about in week 3, were pipe businesses. Now we have what's called platform businesses, right? Somebody remind us what's the difference between a pipe business, which almost 99% of all businesses were up until 2004, 2005, and what we're now calling platform businesses. What's the big difference? Do you remember from about 3 weeks ago?
Pipe means everything just flows in one direction. There's only one way it goes.
Right, exactly. We manufacture stuff over here, we ship it over there to be sold and consumed. People want more, we'll manufacture more over here, we'll ship it over here to be sold and consumed. 99.9% of every single business on the planet was a platform business up until businesses like YouTube, businesses like Airbnb, businesses like Uber and Lyft. Because there, the actual value was not manufactured over here and sold and consumed over here and then created by the difference between what it costs to do over here and what we charge over here. The value was created by whoever was creating the platform, the business, to just simply create a market where actors came together to create value. In the case of YouTube, it was producers and consumers, audiences, and then advertisers. In the case of Uber, it were riders and drivers. In the case of Airbnb, it was people who owned flats and apartments, people who wanted to sleep in one. So the business is not about making stuff over here and shipping over there to be sold and consumed. The business is about creating a layer of service connectivity between multiple actors in a system. And value is only created when those actors come together. Okay? And Legos is not a platform business. They make Legos over here, put them in boxes with names and ages and colors and pictures on the front and send them over there to be consumed, bought and consumed the way we tell you to. Mentos, same thing. Pepsi, same thing. But when you all of a sudden you have a YouTube in the mix, or you have a WeChat in the mix, or you have a TikTok in the mix, or you have one of these places where people form communities around stuff, whether it's cultural stuff, whether it's social stuff, whether it's product stuff, whether it's business stuff, whether it's technology stuff, whether it's whatever stuff, and create value, you've got a different model going on. And so what Prahalad's going to talk about in this chapter is understanding these experience opportunities for value creation. Okay? And they call, and you know, I'm not going to get hung up too much on some of the terminology they use, because it's, you know, it's academic in a large regard, but it is helpful for us to think of it in sort of, you know, framework thinking, because the goal here for us in reading Prahalad and Ramaswamy is to say, what am I going to do with those insights? And this chapter 5, I think each one of us, maybe even inside of our project brands, might think about something interesting to recommend to us about human need and desire and positioning and even value creation when it comes to our turnaround for H&M, based upon this idea of experience architecture, experience frameworks for our business. So what Prahalad says, you got to think about this differently when you plan your brand. Okay, now the sign on this door is competitive strategy. As you know, we can't talk about competitive strategy without talking about marketing strategy, without talking about business strategy, without talking about brand strategy, without talking about product strategy, ultimately without talking about audience strategy. So what they've done in this chapter is talk about what they see as these 4 sort of main components for this planning framework for a different kind of experience of value that now can be created by the business, by the brand, by its marketing, and by its products. So they talk about this change in space and time, these events that make me feel different on the other side of. Now, they give some very, very, very simple examples by Fantasy Sports League, right? What happens here is, anybody ever participate in a Fantasy Sports League? Tom, I see you nodding. Did you lose money in it? Did you make money in it? You just have a lot of fun? All of the above?
All of the above.
How do they work? Tell everybody how they work.
You could join with people you know, or you could also find leagues online of people just looking to get involved with, if they don't have enough people for a league. But you join a league with how it could be 10, 12, 15, however many people, and whatever the sport is, we'll say it's baseball. You have a draft where you pick players, you pick a certain amount of players for each position, and you have to create a lineup depending on the sport, either every day, week, and you face off against one of the other people in the league every week. And you have the regular season, and everybody or just a certain amount of teams could make the playoffs. Then you have the playoffs, and someone at the end wins. First place could take all the money. First place and second place could get money. It's a lot of different ways it could work.
And the product, where does the data come from?
The actual leagues themselves.
Right. So you guys get this, right? Every single day. And baseball is a great example, because if you've ever followed baseball, and you know that there's never, ever, I don't think, been any sport, and it's not just because there's 164 games, or there used to be 164 games every year in the North American League, but you have an immense amount of data created every single day during a season, right? What is there? There are 22 clubs. How many clubs are there?
30.
30. There's 30 clubs. Each club has 25 active players, right? That's 3 times 600 guys, okay? And every day they play 4 or 5 times a week. They get at bat 3 times. The pitcher throws 100 pitches. All these, every single minute, thousands, if not eventually millions of statistics are being created that are real, that are true, that are the product of that sport, Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, NFL. And what happened about 15 years ago, enabled by the internet, was people coming together and saying, hey, let's use all those statistics as though they were our own. And unlike Las Vegas and Atlantic City and online poker, where chance and probability are the only thing that matter, here it's reality that matters. We got all the stats. Let's do something interesting with them and compete. So then the skill is picking who is on your team and then trading for certain other people in mid-season based upon their stats, because the outcomes determine who wins, who loses, and those determine who makes money. So it's a great example of essentially what a platform like, what's the big online fantasy sport? Is there one dominant one? Is Yahoo used to have one? I mean, is there one dominant one, Tom, for Major League Baseball?
There's a couple of pretty big ones. Yahoo's still big, ESPN. And then there's obviously the daily sports ones like DraftKings and FanDuel.
Okay. So as you can see, people got in on this really quickly based upon human need and desire. This didn't exist before. This is a brand new creation of value and experience with the product itself, by the way. It's got nothing to do with what the original owners of those companies, those teams who are part of the Major League Baseball Association, ever intended. Now, did Major League Baseball try to stop them in the beginning? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. Did they ever get asked for a piece of it? I'd be surprised if they didn't. I don't know how.
I'd be shocked if they didn't at some point, but I don't know all the history.
You talk about, the board of directors, the shareholders for a little dairy company like Danone. I tell you, there's nobody more evil than on planet than the owners of the Major League Baseball franchise. I'm sorry, that's a little too much editorial. But I can't imagine they didn't. But the fact is, according to Prahalad, what they've done is understand that these daily events are constantly throwing off this content, this data that's part of their product that can be used in a completely different context for other people to experience and create their own value amongst themselves. Because the secret ingredient here is unleashing that product and its potential value into the crowd. Okay, this is inherently what they're getting at, is a subversive moment that I think business owners and marketeers have to start to recognize. Is there this potential for their company and their products and their services to inhabit these new worlds, these new experience personalization frameworks, where we can enable and suggest and encourage and maybe even monetize, but maybe not, human love for what we do. And in context, that's when and where the experience actually takes place. Now, on fantasy sports, it's on my phone or on my laptop. I'm down in the basement at night, wherever. But the purpose of Starbucks, one of the great examples they give is the chairs. 25 years ago, if you were going to open up a coffee shop, I guarantee you, or a small restaurant or a cafe, you would decide where the counter goes, how many stools. You'd put those stools anchored usually into the floor. You'd put with the restroom where it goes. You'd put the serving table where they go, and then you put the tables and the chairs where they go. Your parents never used to walk into, when they were kids or growing up, a restaurant and start moving the chairs around and the tables around. Yet in Starbucks, by design, They insisted that you put them wherever you want. Now, they did that for some self-serving reasons. They could fit more people in. They could fit different kinds of people in for different use cases at different times in different size groups. They realized that by creating that sort of mildly chaotic sense of personalization, that they allowed people to contribute to the value creation and the experience of that service. Down here, involvement, what they said is this represents a shift in how we allow the event, the product experience in this new environment, can be sparked and can be owned, okay, by the individual, or almost always by the individual in the context of a group. Okay, and they use the example of massive multiplayer games, you know, and hacking a hashtag, reimagining. I mean, the last one here, meaning, is what we just talked about. But this is a really important one. When you hack Legos like that, because that, make no mistake, and there, by the way, you can see, Google, you know, Lego on YouTube, and you will find these massive works of art that people have created. These towering things where they've hacked together all sorts of different, you know, Legos in the service of creating bizarre and unworldly characters and things and creations. And when you do that, and it's not just on YouTube, but it's on YouTube because it says it's going on down at the square, it's going on in my whatever, it's in my basement, and it's in my front yard, it's in the public park, it's in a baseball stadium, wherever it is, you begin to reimagine, there's that word G brought in, the place, the product, the value that this thing has in my life. In a million years, I never used to think that Lego meant something like this to me. Lego actually has the potential for meaning something completely different, special, unique, and heightened to me in this new context, with this new level of involvement, with this creation of essentially a different kind of event. So this is a very, very interesting formula that Prahalad, I think, reveals and uncovers. And they talk about it as a spectrum. And, you know, again, they're trying to give us advice based upon some cases of early insight about what the way the world's changing and of business and brands and people and products and how they use them. But what they come at here is an interesting way. They start talking about, there's a lot of players here that you know, mean something to making this happen that didn't used to matter to us as a business. Because they used to look at their firms, their businesses, as fortresses. They used to look at it in the pipe world. I make stuff over here. I guard my trade secrets. I have security around my factories. I have private police that and security that manage and monitor my supply chain. I drug test my employees. I got all of this paranoid fortress-like thinking that has always traditionally gone into how I make stuff and sell it. How I create business value for my shareholders, myself, my customers, right? And there was businesses over here, I'd ship stuff to people over here, and they go up more when they needed it. Here, what they're saying is that there's this new sort of co-creation ecosystem. And we need to think about the role of partners. And in this case, if I am Legos, all of a sudden a partner, given the case we just talked about, who's a partner in Lego's case when it comes to this? Using the one we just looked at. YouTube. YouTube becomes a good critical partner, but also TikTok maybe, also Twitter maybe, also Reddit maybe, wherever people gather in our name. And then there's these affiliates. Who's an affiliate in the Lego example? The crazy Russian hacker, right? Okay, and those are close in. I'm not even quite sure I agree with Prahalad here, because I think the difference between firms and humans, and they tell us this in the very beginning. Remember what's the first line inside of we start this class with it. The first line inside of Prahalad, and Ramaswamy is something along the lines of, it's time that we understood that the difference between the firm and the household is erased. And we all looked at that in the beginning of this book and said, what are you talking about? That makes no sense. This is where they start to make sense. And the firms and the humans aren't that far apart anymore, because right then and there, we're getting closer and closer and closer because of the way affiliates are talking about our product, the way they're inviting us to do it on places like YouTube. And then these nodes form around it. What are these nodes? Use Legos as an example. Pardon me. It's not every human on the planet. It's not even every human on the planet that goes to YouTube. It's not every human on the planet that goes to YouTube and understands what Legos is. It's the people it's those 7 million views and those 5,000 comments on the crazy Russian hackers YouTube channel. That's a node. And they form around it. Tom, on his various journeys through losing and winning and having a good time making or not money with regard to his fantasy sports, playing, has been a member of multiple nodes. So this is what they're talking about when they talk about co-creation. And co-creation, it's a very 2009 verb. I think, they came up with it, or co-creates the verb. Co-creation is, I guess, the noun, where it's an adverb, all right? And so it doesn't really, it doesn't sing off the lips, but it's really important for us to understand as a mechanic, as the essence of a new marketing, as the essence of a different kind of brand behavior, as the essence of a different kind of business strategy, for us allowing our products to be unleashed into these nodes via these partners, via these affiliates, into the world of humans, so they can experience and add value by what they bring to it. It changes the nature of our businesses. It changes the nature of our products. It changes the nature of our profitability. It changes the nature of our marketing. It changes certainly the kind of brand we build. I guarantee you, up until some kids started to film them putting Mentos into Pepsis to watch explosions, the vast majority of people who ended up seeing it didn't give a shit about Pepsi and never even heard of Mentos. All of a sudden, the meaning, I'm going to go back a slide, 2 slides. The meaning of Mentos in experiencing this new kind of environment, of involvement, of combining those 2 products in this entertaining and this frankly scary and wonderful and almost exhilarating demonstration of an explosion in the context of me just hanging out on YouTube, creates an event of my participation that means something completely different. Mentos now means something different. The big idea that they suggest here is personalizing these co-creation experience means fostering individual experiences. And we'll take a break in 1 minute. Personalizing this co-creation experience means fostering, enabling, encouraging, allowing individual experiences. It involves more than just a company's a la carte. This has nothing to do with when the Major League Baseball said, what are they doing with our stats? I thought we were just supposed to put them on the back of baseball cards. I didn't know anyone was supposed to do something with them. Yeah, but you should see what they're doing with them. But we don't sell it. Can we make money? A personalized co-creation experience reflects how an individual chooses to interact with these new experience environments that the firm can initiate. Oftentimes, the firm has no say in it at all. People do this. People decide to mix Mentos and Pepsi. People decide to take those stats and do something different with them. People decide to try to, do things with Legos that no one in a million years would have thought was what they intended to be made for. So what Prahalad says, we're suggesting a totally different process. And make no mistake, this is a process about product design. This is a process around business strategy. This is a process around brand building. This is a process around audience and marketing planning. It's a different process. They say that one that involves individual consumers in personalized co-creation experiences, and two, presents a very broad challenge to business leaders. Just like Legos and Mentos and Pepsi and probably MLB screwed up, at least initially, by saying, huh? That's not why we do what we do. That's not who we're for. No, what? Really? Every business will go through this. Okay? So they do a little side by side, and this is, again, part of their academic, they can't help themselves, but they try to give you a way of thinking about how to apply this strategy, these insights about the future of business for everybody in a context that you can apply it into, replicate it for your business, whether you're H&M, whether you're Under Armour, whether you're Macy's, or whether you're Taco Bell. So they'd say there's 5 ways with which the world of business has changed. The world of competing has changed. The view of customization, the focus on customization, the approach to customization, an understanding of a supply chain, and a focus on the infrastructure. And we're going to build from the bottom up. Okay? The infrastructure. First and foremost, they say, guess what? We used to do everything we did because that's that Lego set. That's that baseball season. That's that Starbucks, that cafe. Everything we built was configured and designed specifically for a particular audience and use case. Now they're saying, in the new experience personalization world, the framework that we're talking about, now we have to enable, initiate, encourage, allow, or just be surprised from and catch up to these new emerging, almost always user-generated experience nodes or networks. When it comes down to the old supply chain, used to be that we would have modular fulfillment, just like Amazon has picker and packer and say, what do you want? You pick something, they ship it to you. They pick it off of a shelf and they put it into UPS and it shows up on your thing. You put it in your bathroom, you put it in your kitchen, wherever. Everything we have comes in a particular size, shape, flavor, price, color, form, and value package. Now, not so much. We're out there now in this mixed up, crazy world, activating the business, activating our product value, activating our marketing, activating a new brand heterogeneously. What does heterogeneously mean? What's the opposite of heterogeneous?
It's homogeneous.
Yes, yes. Homogeneous, or homogeneous, as we say in America very badly, which is everything's the same. Heterogeneous means everything's different. Discretely different in together. And then they talk about customization. And we used to say, here's our feature menu, pick what you'd like. Anybody ever buy a Dell? No, most of you guys are Apple, right? But days when people like me buy a Dell, I'm on a Dell right now. You had a chance of picking, your SIM card and your disk size and your graphics card and your hard drive and your clock speed and your screen size and your whatever. All this choice, all these components. But you know what? It was fixed. Now, and this is where that whole new framework comes into play. Now it's almost impossible for us to plan this at a feature or a component level because of what happens when people are added to the formula. This is a very important point. Right here, those events we talk about, the context within which they happen, the involvement that they encourage or enable, and then the net new meaning that has to do with value around human experience. This is the big idea right here. So they call it customization. They're just, it's bigger than that. It's permission. It's expansion. It's about imagination and involvement, just like Xi taught us. So we go from one-off product service into this interactive personalization in situ. This now means that we're ordering different kinds of products maybe. And all of a sudden now, We got a segment of one. We got somebody who, 5 years from now, when I walk into, or next week or next year when people go back to visiting, anybody ever go to Legoland? I took the kids to Legoland. We lived in the UK for a couple of years, about 20 years ago. My fifth child was born over there. And there was a place out in the suburbs. I don't even know if Legoland still had. They're like theme parks, like Disneyland, but for Legos. And there's characters from their movies, and there's characters from their games. And who knows? If I was Lego, I would have guys like the crazy Russian hacker there. And I would walk in a segment of one that walks into Lego with his kids, 3 years from now or 2 years, as soon as the pandemic's over, and we get a chance to walk into Legoland. Somebody should fire off a chip inside of somebody that knows that I'm a customer who went to these websites that did these kind of things because I registered and I'm a big fan and I'm in here to look at the best hacks you got. So I get my experience at Legoland much different from everybody else based upon everything I've already told Legoland about Lego, about what I like, what I do, what the meaning, what the context, what these events and how my involvement has changed in their products based upon these experience networks that I've been inhabiting for the last 4 or 5, 6 years since we started. So they've given us a bit of a roadmap to plan how to take advantage of this extraordinary disruption in traditional product selling, product marketing, brand building, business strategy. And you just gotta be brave, you gotta be smart, you gotta be open, you gotta be massively, massively accommodating, and you've got to let people, customers, in under the tent of product design, of business strategy, of marketing strategy. We're already looking for influencers to help us market. This is a whole different game. This is about using these communities to become our marketing in and of themselves. So I apologize for going on, and we got 40 minutes left, and we'll take a break right now. But I just wanted, before we take a break, and just to have something going in your head, my favorite case, and I think we talked about it earlier in the semester, around this, in a way, will surprise you because it's Red Bull and Red Bull Music Academy. And I think we talked about this briefly. We had in a case, or it's coming, but Red Bull created this online platform for musicians, for producers, for DJs, for fans, for promoters, for videographers, for engineers, for everybody that had anything to do with music. And they called it Red Bull Music Academy. And it was free. And it was basically just a big freaking playground. Now, what's the role of energy drink in that? Well, for Red Bull, it's by association. These people matter to us because these people are pretty, they drink a lot of Red Bull because they're up all night mixing, or they're up all night partying, or up all night, working on their music, or they're up all night just dancing. Red Bull, maybe. We have a role in that world. We have a role in that culture. Why don't we enable a whole other way to experience not just our product directly, but all the stuff that happens in and around our product, like the imagination and the involvement that comes with music and the communities that form around it, the event of that, the context for that community and that product usage, and incredibly important, the sense of involvement that is reaped from it, and ultimately the way it changes meaning in our worlds. Anyway, take a break, 10 minutes, see you back here. Apologize for the long segment, but I think we wanted to cover enough and a lot, too much. See you back here. It's 1:53 on my watch, so we'll take it at 2:04 Eastern time. See you right here. All right. We are back. Do we have a quorum of people on video? So sorry that we went so long in our first segment. Is everybody ready? How about we get everybody on video? We got Wen, Shiki, Edie, Rainey, Ji-Chen, Ji, Wan Shen, there we go. People coming up, Yang Shuo, Edie, Shuo. That's good. I know. There we go. We're almost all there. All right. That's it. Wen, Edie, you coming? Wen Shen. All right. Okay. So I want to pick back up again. My goal in the coming week and a half, 2 weeks is to continue to bring in cases, so you can see how in the past myself and other people have taken these kinds of insights from this kind of research around deep listening and done something I think interesting with them in the service of creating fresh competitive advantage for their businesses. So tonight's case, we're going to bring in a couple of them. We got 3 or 4, and we probably won't finish the rest of this until next week. But I want to just keep inspiring you. And some of this stuff is ripped, as you can see. This for our friends at Neutrogena. This is from a month and a half ago. So this stuff's coming right out of my consulting work into our classes. So I think hopefully that demonstrates this stuff is fresh, it's happening, and it's being bought and being used and hopefully applied by brands, because this will be your job. And again, the entire conceit that all of this is based upon, if you go back to the very beginning of this semester, I said, look, the reason I believe that fresh insight is the answer to a different kind of marketing, a different kind of business, different kind of branding, is because if we go out and continue to use the same old insights about audience need and desire and brand value that we have been building our marketing and our branding and our advertising around for the last 2-3 generations, we won't compete very well. Because I guarantee you that in every category, there will be businesses, competitors, who are recognizing that a different kind of showing up in the world is required. A different kind of brand behavior is required. A different kind of business strategy, product strategy is required, because we don't get to say what kind of brand we want to build. Our behavior, our actions, our experiences in the world of humans that matter to us is what ends up making one brand or another mean something of any kind of value over another. So the conceit is that deep insight, fresh insight, offers us extraordinary competitive advantage. Okay? So I want you to think about that. 2 things. One, when you look at each one of these cases that we're going to be going through in the coming weeks, understand what that's the entire intent, is to go out and find fresh insight that our competitors don't have about the human condition that we solve for. The brief is to go out and find fresh, deep insight about the human condition that our competitors don't have, which we solve for with our products, with our marketing, with our business, with our brand behavior. Okay? This is a leap. And it's a leap that is ignited, supported, enabled, and rationalized by this imperative for fresh, deep insight. Okay, so that's the task at hand here. And we went into this brief. Everybody see my screen? Thank you. We went into this brief saying, okay, what do we think we know about the acne sufferer? And they said, well, we know that it makes them feel like they can't go out. It makes them feel embarrassed. It makes them feel shameful. It makes them feel unhygienic. It makes them feel like they're excluded. It makes them feel like they're not comfortable in their world and their skin and their life. And we said, okay, maybe. And we built a query. It said, give me everything where people are talking about on the great social networks of the planet, of the world, that include my face or your face. And we use those 2 terms specifically because we know how these conversations work. And also acne. And not just all the conversations include acne and my face or your face, but all the conversations that satisfy those two conditions, my face or your face, and acne, and also include any of these other words. So I want you, it's important for me to take the time to get you guys hip to the logic that we use to construct these queries, because that determines the outputs that we get. That determines those spreadsheets that you guys go, about. And if we get decent, and so when you send me your keywords for your revised extracts, and you will for each one of your 4 project brands, think about how I set this up for Neutrogena. I didn't say, give me everything people talk about Neutrogena or in acne. I said, I don't care about what people are saying about brands right now. All I care about is people. All I care about is their acne and their relationship to it in the context of them seeking, getting, giving advice or help or support or whatever in the world of communities online. So give me everything that has my face and or your face and acne, and also includes any of these other words: results, recommend, proof, help, advice, suggest, please, problem, solution. Has anyone, no matter what, every time my doctor, my derm, wish, my routine, going out every day, at night, remove, whenever, help. Why me? My age, your age. Okay, you see where we're going? We're getting conversations where people are really down there deep talking about my face or your face in the context of acne that include words like this. As you might imagine, it gave us a very, very rich universe of conversations. And you can see here that the ratio of engagement, and engagement is the ratio, is any measure of some sort of subsequent behavior based upon these 95,400 original posts. Okay, I'll say it again. The results is the original posts in the 13 months that satisfied that query, and then the 1.1 million on top of that are people that commented, are people that upvoted, are people that liked it, are people that shared it, are people that fanned or followed it, the people who posted it. It's any kind of resulting behavior based upon that. And what we look at is a ratio of what we call heat. And this is a relatively hot sample of 13-month data. So 95,400 people, posted something that satisfied that query. And then 10 times that number of people had something else to say to that comment, to that post, to that tweet, to that blog. And that's a pretty rich ratio of engagement. So that says, okay, maybe we're onto something. Sentiment, again, I'm not a big fan that this gives any insight whatsoever, because you just saw that. We're not tracking, people like my brand over others? We're tracking, in fact, sentiment to me, sometimes the more negative, the better, because people are talking about how miserable certain things feel, and other people tell them how to feel better. And the language of misery, the language of confusion, the language of anxiety, the language of need, the language of query, the language of what the fuck, triggers an immense opportunity for the language of support, or the language of admonishment, or the language of correction, the language of advice, the language of aid, the language of celebration, the language of connection. And when you can get those kinds of exchanges, and you just quietly, anonymously, invisibly listen, I tell you, I have been doing this for 12, 13 years now, in almost every single category, in almost every single market on the planet. And I have almost never not found frighteningly deep insight about human need, about human desire, about the human condition, very specific human condition. In this case, the human condition of having acne. And that last number down there of reach is, again, these tools all try to say, look, this is how, this is not just how many people talked about this that satisfied that query, or the number of people that commented or engaged around it, and the content of that based upon positive or negative, which, these tools aren't very good at guessing whether that's a really negative comment or really positive comment, nor whether that means anything for us, the analyst, when we're probing for evidence of human desire. And the reach, their last number here, is about, if you imagine Twitter, I always look at Twitter, the number of people that follow you will often see what you like. I don't know if Weibo works the same way, but the algorithm will very much put into my feed on my Twitter the people that I follow when they like something. So I'll see other people's stuff based upon the people I'm following, if those people I'm following like it. That's how the algorithm works on Twitter. Probably works the same way on Weibo. I haven't been on Weibo much in the last year or two, but I'm guessing it does. And if you're on, and so it adds that up, and then all of a sudden it gets to 45.7 trillion other people might have seen this original post, or the comments or engagement that happened on top of it. So that's why they call it reach. It's not like media reach, but it's like potentially that's the, and if it's a subreddit, it's the number of subscribers on that subreddit that might have seen that post, or the 1.1 million posts that came on top of it. Anyway, this is just a very, very broad volumetric look at the content that satisfied this query. And then the rest of these slides, the quant slides, are just that. It says, again, out of all the different conversations we had, out of all the different words inside of those 95,000 plus those 1.1, the single words that most appear are acne, face, skin, and that's not surprising because those are in our query. Then it starts to get interesting when I drill down into the two words that together appear the most frequently. Benzoyl peroxide, yeah. Skincare, yeah. Acne prone, oily skin. Salicylic acid. Anybody who's ever fought and battled acne will know the importance of salicylic acid. It's a breakthrough product or solution or application that has been used to help a whole generation of acne sufferers, condition sufferers, to keep, to reduce their breakouts, because it ostensibly cleans and then scours out the pores before they get a chance to become infected and sprout acne or whatever. If you look at the three words that appear the most, wash your face, to me, is interesting. Wash my face, interesting. Conditions like psoriasis, times a week. Now, these in and of themselves are not insightful, but what they tell us is that's interesting. Maybe there's enough conversations of people talking about how many times a week do you do that we might get some idea about the intensity with which people are committed to figuring this out on their own, or how much help they need, or how often they're willing to apply their advice or whatever. Now, the way these tools work, and you can't do it here, is if this was live, Macy's, yo. We got, now this is really hot. 433,000 original posts, 13.4 million subsequent types of engagement. So that's fine. That's almost 13, 20, what is that? 27-to-1 ratio of original post to subsequent post. That's really hot. And the fact that they were about even, negative and positive, doesn't make no sense. The fact that they had that kind of reach, no, I don't care. But if we look at the top themes, And again, this just so we can reset ourselves. This is the query we use for Macy's. Macy's or Macy's, just because the spelling, against or alternative or compare to or compared with or compete or market share or advice or tell me or blah, 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 blah. You can see we tried very hard to try to get conversations specific to people choosing or not Macy's or things like it or what the experience was or what they did. And you can see here that, of course, a single word didn't tell us too much. Oh my God, so sorry. But if I want to look at the 2-word frequency bubble, maybe it gets more interesting. All of a sudden, I find people that are now talking with a fair amount of frequency about the Thanksgiving Day parade, the holiday season, Santa Claus, bankruptcy protection, Thanksgiving Day, shopping season. All right, maybe those are interesting. If I get down into my 3-word frequency bubble, a lot of times 3 words are very, very uninsightful. Let's take a look here for Macy's. Created for Macy's. Interesting. Here, like I said, on your dashboards that I just screen grab and give you the quant deck along with your extract for your analysis, you can't drill down. But using the tool itself, I could click through and say, I wonder what those conversations are like. Well, there's 5,000 conversations that include created for Macy's. What's this about? Holiday gift guide, what to wear for Labor Day, the best early Black Friday deals, shopping haul 2020, popular home decor, Valentine's Day, a lot of beauty products, park assist. Maybe that's interesting. I don't know. If I want, I can export just that. And this is the process I go through to give you the 2 products I've given you for each one of your product teams, except I haven't drilled down into these. I've given to you at the very top level, the dashboards and the extract. In this case, and I'm not going to go through with it, I'm about to extract the 5,400 or 7,200 conversations or links to those conversations that showed up under Made for Macy's. Okay. I'm walking you through this just so you can see how that looks. And what the heck? We're here.
Professor,
Yes, see.
I have a question. So does first query is really matter or it doesn't matter?
Is what query?
Like the first query.
It may, I would analyze it, but I would also immediately ask me for new ones.
Okay.
Which, remind me what your project is?
Macy.
Okay, so this is on the 4th row, I see a Reddit that may be interesting. You may have a decent sample here, but I don't mind giving you more. Here we have on the first one, 9 comments. That's not a lot. Macy's a different breed of disgustingly greedy, sending endless emails to purchase before a sale is over. Then the very next day, lower the price, even more the same. When you ask to get credit, you get banned, only to allow in-store during a pandemic and still charge card. Why would anyone ask for credit after they bought something? Do you think you're special or something? It's called a price protection, just like credit cards. No, it's actually called appeasing you spoiled Karens. Now we know why I banned you from ordering services. So there's nothing here, but you know, we looked at it. People talking about the different policies with exchange or credit or buybacks or offers or don't be a Karen. And all of a sudden, there's an interesting insight here. Is Macy's not for Karens? You guys know what Karens are? Karens are a name for spoiled, entitled, privileged, mostly white women in New York. And it happened because there was a woman who decided to report some black guy for as a bird watcher, and I think, or something. Tom, you probably remember this better than I. But anyway, it happened in the past year, and Karen became a label for privileged white people of a certain kind. So all of a sudden, the insight from that one little blog post maybe is that Macy's is perceived as Karen friendly. I don't know if that's true or not, because it's not going to be perceived as the Taco Bell of retail, or maybe it is. Anyway, long way to go to say, G and team, feel free to give me a request for additional polls, okay, for Macy's.
So the first vocabulary really matter, right? Like the one like HM is really matters, right?
Say it again.
Like how do I explain? Like the first vocabulary is really matters, right? The first one, like in
the query.
Yeah. Like
without a doubt. And so you don't have to know what I know about how to create them, except know that this is what I'm starting with. So you may say to me, I don't want Macy's. I want department store and that.
Okay. So it don't have to be Macy's, right?
No. In fact, I would say that the real insightful conversations maybe have nothing to do with Macy's. That just has to do with department stores in general. And we're going to find some people talking about Macy's, some people talking about Neiman Marcus, some people talking about whatever. Now I've got you a new query. Let's see how many. Look at that. All of a sudden now, it's funny. It's about the same amount of original posts, just talking about department store. That's interesting. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send you this one anyway. You can use it or not, because I think it's going to have a lot of rich content in it. And instead of us focusing just on Macy's, it looks at all those other things in the context of department store. We're almost out of time. And I will send this to Team Macy's as a enticement for all other teams to come up with a similar request. But let me get back and at least get a little further into in the next minute and a half, into our case here. I'm not too concerned with the amount of insight that might come from who the influencers or publishers are. In this case, for Neutrogena, I spent a lot of time on that query. And so the fact that we got 63% female and 36% male doesn't surprise me. The fact that we got lots and lots of family and parenting and literature and books and music and audio doesn't surprise me. The fact that this skews 50% under 25 doesn't surprise me, because this is when people have acne. The fact that they're still talking about it, almost 44% up until 34, is interesting. The fact that authors, writers, artists, and students maybe, and musicians form the majority of the people having it, maybe that's interesting. But where all the insight comes from is here, when I press the button and I output that analysis. And this is what we found when it comes to Neutrogena. And we're going to leave it here, but I want to tell you the reason I start with two pieces of content that we found in our listening. And the links to both of them are down here inside of tonight's lecture deck, so you can look at them. One of them I actually grabbed right here, the open letter, to my acne. And the other is a YouTube video of this woman. Now, they don't go together, but I wanted to put them together in our research report because they landed and indicated to us two very, very important pieces of evidence that allowed us to suggest, and I'm going to go through all these things next week when we pick back up, but suggest something very, very, very important when it came down to the insights around our audience of the severe or the stubborn acne sufferer. And we'll pick back up But this insight of Dear Acne, I win eventually, otherwise known as Dear Acne, fuck you, was our insight. And we got it from about 40 hours worth of analysis of the spreadsheets and the conversations they led us to that were based upon that query I just showed you for acne and my face or your face and all those other words. And we surprised the hell out of the client. The client was like, huh, okay, where'd you find that? And we showed them, this is where we found it. This is what we found. And this is what we think we can do with it. So we'll pick back up on this case next week. Any questions about the homework? Any questions about sending me a request for additional extracts? Okay. Well, listen, people, sorry we went a little long. I want you guys, as ever, to be cool, be groovy, be safe, be healthy, be well, and be dangerous. Feel better,
Thank you.
Clara.
Thank
Peace out,
you.
people. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Talk
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Enjoy.